It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and text for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th century, the interweb's first and still only podcast. My name is Jared.
Hey, my name's Matt.
And I'm Mike.
The three amigos are back.
Hey, the three of us are together. This is something that is not to be taken for granted. Now, I've done shows with Matt and I've done shows with Mike in recent weeks, but this is the first time for a while we've all three been together.
That's right.
And I think I know the reason this has happened.
Why?
Our names are being put into a lottery, and we are going to be, well, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, that's fair.
But today on this show, we're going to be taking a look back at, is this an underrated cult classic? Is it widely known?
I would have to say it falls under cult because I don't think a lot of people have seen this movie. I think they may be aware that it exists because, when I mentioned it to Deke, he had never, I don't think he's even ever seen it.
I don't know how that's possible.
I think if you weren't alive when it came out, I think it passed you by, and I don't think a lot of people went back to it.
I mean, to me, we'll get into the movie, but this was a staple growing up, and it aired a lot, and it's like,
oh yeah, a cable television staple on weekend afternoons.
But talk to the younger folk and see how many of them have heard of it.
Well, the younger folk of this century don't know much of anything. The 25th century, of course, but also the 21st. We're talking about the 1981 fantasy film classic, Dragonslayer. And we are going to now dive in to a retroactive rewind review of this film.
Retroactive rewind review.
There's a great task needing to be done.
No doubt you've heard of our trouble at home.
A dragon, fire and stench. It is evil. Pure and simple.
You want me to do battle with that?
Behold, for I am chosen, I shall die that many may live.
Twice each year, the king selects a new victim. Chosen by lot. Girls, virgins.
Your king's made a pact with a monster.
But your children were dying.
Only a few. Does that sound cruel?
Dragonslayer. Coming from Paramount Pictures.
Well,
okay,
I want to say right up front, I like it.
And every Monday, guys, this podcast.
Well, I'm gonna just come out and say, I've watched this. My first exposure to this movie was in comic book form. And
there was an adaptation?
Oh yeah, there's been a novelization, a Marvel did a 2-issue run. They used to have these Marvel super special.
So wait, Mike, hold on. You're saying that the first exposure you had to Dragonslayer as a kid was through the comics?
Yeah, I read it in the comic first.
Okay, that's awesome.
When I was young, we didn't really get to the movies a whole lot. It was very rare.
I didn't
and when
see
you
this
did,
in the theater.
your
This
father would take you to Jaws as a 3-year-old.
No, they didn't take me to. Oh yeah. Hey, actually, my dad did take me to see the black hole. That was cool. Anyway, I think it was my birthday or something. But anyway, so yeah, I think I have this memory of maybe I read it when I was sick. Like my mom, like if I got sick, my mom would, when she run to the drugstore, would get me some comics, and I seem to recall maybe this was read in bed when I wasn't feeling well. But anyway, I knew of the movie, and of course I wanted to see the movie. We didn't go see the movie. And so my first exposure was reading the comic book, and I really liked the story when I read it in its comic book form. I can't remember when I finally did see it in, I'm sure it was on, I don't know if it was on cable or DVD. It had to be before DVD.
Yeah.
I really don't remember when I watched this movie. It must have been on cable, because I really don't remember when I first saw this movie. It was one of those movies I had seen. But also the Marvel Super Special had some cool articles in the back on the making of. So it was probably one of my first exposures to behind the scenes stuff, aside from the making of specials that they ran on Star Wars movies. So that was kind of cool. Seeing pictures of the model of the dragon.
Yeah.
Vermithrax. Hard name to say.
Vermithrax pejorative.
Yes. I saw this movie in English class in 7th grade. I think we were, I don't know, teachers would just throw on movies when they didn't feel like teaching anything.
Was she surprised by the
what?
Nipple?
Or the fish bait dangling down?
Or the nice look at Peter MacNicol's bottom that we get. Yes, there were a lot of giggling. There was lots of giggling, as I recall, during that scene. But also it was like, holy crap, did I just see some nudity? But I remember when I watched it the first time, I was like, holy crap, that looks like a real dragon.
The first time I saw anything about it, Good Morning America was ran a clip, and they ran the clip of Peter MacNicol in the lair when the dragon's breathing fire at him. And yeah, there's no doubt the effects in this movie are just unbelievable.
Yeah, I rewatched it today for the first time. It must have been a long time. I probably haven't watched and sat through this movie in over 15 years. And I have to say, it holds up really well. And there's some things that are a little wonky, but it holds up surprisingly well. And that really goes for the dragon as well. But
the dragon is amazing.
The dragon is phenomenal.
Nothing short of amazing.
And, actually, but, we're kind of kicking it off. I want to say that what really impressed me in this watching now and in this viewing today that I really didn't think about before was just like the movie Jaws. Unintentionally in Jaws, but intentionally in this one, this movie really benefited by you not seeing the dragon for 3/4 of the movie. It really wasn't exposed, and you didn't really see it until almost 3/4 of the way through. And just like how Jaws helped build that suspense and build that lore up, this is exactly what happened in this movie. And in fact, I think if the dragon had been shown earlier in the movie, it would not be nearly as memorable to me as this movie is now. The way that they structured it.
100%. And you could tell. And I recently rewatched, I bought it on 4K. They just released a special edition.
Oh, guys, I want to hear about the 4K because I haven't seen the 4K. I want to hear what your thoughts on the 4K are.
Okay. I could tell rewatching it recently. I was like, they are building to this moment because I hadn't seen it in a while, and I was sort of like, man, I kind of want to see what this dragon looks like. And in that way, very similar, I think, a little bit to Jurassic Park and the build-up to revealing the first Brachiosaurus that you see in the first movie. Because in both cases, you're going to see a dinosaur, you're going to see a dragon, but you just don't know how spectacular it's going to be, and they're going to hold that as long as possible before the reveal. And in the case of Dragonslayer, I can imagine audiences of 1981 going, waiting to see it. You see pieces of it. You see the foot, or you see the talons, or you see the tail.
There's a shot of the tail smashing the wagon,
and which were all obviously full size props that they were using, because they did build almost a full scale dragon practically. I could imagine the audiences of that time just be like, "Holy crap, that is amazing!"
The few that saw it,
yeah. It was not a box office smash,
and which was a real surprise to everyone who worked on it. But I think, and I'll go into the story at this point. The thing about this movie is it was without a doubt heavily inspired by Tolkien. They even admit, like, the writer admits, we love Tolkien. I mean, this is straight up. I mean, it's Smaug. I feel like this movie, where like Lord of the Rings is sort of a story of the transition from fantasy to the world of men. I feel like this story is the same thing. Like it's the last dragon, the last wizard. You see the rise in Christianity. So you're going from myth to Christianity. This story is a handoff, and the dragon is a tool or a bridge for that. And I think this movie works in that it's a, without sounding snooty, it's a thinking man's movie. And I'm not saying if you don't like it, that means you're dumb. I'm just saying,
but you are.
No, but this is a movie where you really kind of just sit and absorb.
Well, you're exactly right, because I was going to bring that up, in that it's almost unique in fantasy films to have the aspect of the early Christian church, because this is a part of the movie that I totally forgot about until my recent rewatch. I was like, oh, holy cow, these are like, early Catholic priests who are talking about this stuff. And it's kind of unique, because in all these other fantasy properties, there's no mention of any sort of religion that we know of,
like an established religion in our world.
Yeah, like with Lord of the Rings and other fantasy properties, it's just not part of the story. And I thought that's something that made this unique, in that you've got priests saying, "Oh, this is the devil. He's down in hell, and we're gonna." And our good friend the Emperor,
Ian McDiarmid, who has an amazing death scene, by the way.
It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, that was good. But
but to add on to that, it's interesting how the early Christian holy men are kind of portrayed in this, because well, for one thing, it lets the audience look at the movie and put it in a real time frame, not a fantasy time frame, but they can actually go back and say, okay, wow, this really kind of happened on this planet, on this this world.
Well, they did base it in a time after the Roman Empire. That they did consciously do that. And
but they also kind of poke at Christianity in this movie as ineffective, and kind of ignoring what's really functional in the magic of the world, because nothing, you have Ian McDiarmid, who obviously gets roasted, and his sermon doesn't help. And then at the end of the movie, we see, the villager who's become the new holy man is now thanking God for, bringing the monster down, and not acknowledging what just happened either. So it's a way of, I think they're also poking fun at Christianity also at the same time here. But
I really didn't get that vibe from it. I felt like it was, because I didn't feel like I feel like the Ian McDiarmid's character was ignorant and got zapped for it. but then you were kind of seeing a new wave.
But it's funny because at the and not to jump to the very end, but when the king he becomes the king, the Dragonslayer, officially he becomes a Dragonslayer, and you have the Christian holy man up there kind of also acknowledging it for the village, what just happened it's because of our God, and look, and you have the Dragonslayer down there, the king. So it's all a narrative that is crafted that's not around the truth. It's creating their own truth.
Well, I think that's like the king part to me was funny because that was politics. That's like modern politics.
But it's funny because you always hear about in history, like that the king who was the Dragonslayer or the knight, and I like how they do it, how they establish it. But anyways,
I tell you, even seeing that as a kid, that was very that was striking to me.
With the king.
Yeah, how he's holding his daughter back.
Well,
from the lottery.
The whole end where he basically comes and takes credit.
Oh yes,
for the killing of the dragon, and it was very, little did I know I was about to see what basically adulthood was.
So if you haven't seen this movie, to take you through just kind of like a real overview plot from the beginning here, it starts out. A wizard and his apprentice and his assistant have a kind of like a congregation that has come from a faraway village asking for help, and it's led by a young lad named Caitlin Clark, who, by the way, is about as convincing as a boy as Joyce Heiser was in Just One of the Guys, in my opinion. And I never once was like, I can't believe that was a girl. It always seemed like a girl to me.
That's where, having read the comic book. Because in the comic book, the surprise works because you're like, oh, that's a guy.
Of course it works.
But in the movie, didn't quite work. When I saw the movie, I already knew. Now, I did notice that they do drop her voice.
Yeah, they say in the documentary that they pitched her voice down when she was at the beginning of the film.
Right. I find,
and she starts wearing makeup halfway through the movie.
Yeah. There is quite a transition there. But they ask the wizard for help, and it's a great opening scene. I love the interaction. I love the dialogue.
Yes,
Ralph Richardson is
the actor's name.
Amazing.
Ralph Richardson.
Yes,
he played God in Time Bandits.
Yeah, he was also in Greystoke, which, by the way, I saw a ton. I watched Greystoke a lot when I was a kid too. You ever watch that movie, Greystoke?
I have actually never seen that.
Legend of Tarzan.
Yeah. That was like another one of those like TBS weekend movies that were always on. So this guy had a lot to do with my youth between Time Bandits, this movie, and Greystoke. I saw him. I remember watching him a lot.
He's a very quirky actor, and it works very well for this role because his movements for when he's casting the spells are just it's really interesting to watch him work.
Yeah, I agree.
And that part of it was inspired by Fantasia. The whole apprentice thing was an inspiration for the
Speaking
writers.
of the apprentice, what are your thoughts on Peter MacNicol in the role?
Okay, here's my initial thought. As watching this movie, I was like, what they're going for a Luke Skywalker,
which, by the way, he was called the next Mark Hamill when he was premiered.
Yes, there's a very Mark Hamill.
That probably turned out kind of true,
but there's a very Mark Hamill vibe about it, young Mark Hamill vibe about what he's doing. And I think that's completely on purpose because this was right in the middle of the original Star Wars trilogy when this dropped. And I definitely think that they were trying to play off that.
This is the first movie ILM did that was not a Star Wars movie.
Correct. This was the first time they had it
was between, I believe, Raiders and Empire, or was it after?
It was after Empire, and it was the same year as Raiders, but because Raiders beat it.
They were both nominated,
and Raiders won for visual effects. Yeah, this was the first one that ILM sort of farmed themselves out and said, "Okay, hey, we're open for hire if you want to work with us." And of course, Phil Tippett and Dennis Muren were the masterminds,
and Ken Ralston.
Correct. All of whom are sort of legendary visual effects guys. But yeah, that's I have that the ILM, one of the big ILM books they released, the big coffee table books. But yeah, they make a big deal that Dragonslayer was the first one they went outside Lucasfilm.
You know,
to do.
Yeah, watching the movie again, it's interesting, to watch it at my age and not taking such a time off from it. I remember never loving Peter MacNicol in the role, but now I have two problems with it. One, I still don't love him in the role because I think there's a lot about him I don't like his voice. I don't like his look. Something never fit the role for me. And two, after watching Ghostbusters 2, he's always going to be that guy.
Well, it's funny because when Ghostbusters 2 came out and I read, I guess I read in a magazine back in the old days before the internet, like Peter MacNicol from Dragonslayer. And I was like, you are kidding me. That's the same guy. Now, we're rewatching 24 with my son, David. And we just, he is in seasons, is it 5 and 6? And let me tell you what, he plays a character who you want to beat the snot out of. So he's actually a really good actor. I think he works, and this goes, I think he works well in this movie with the intention of the movie. I think we're used to seeing leading men, and he doesn't have that presence. But I think he's kind of like a snot-nosed kid, and who kind of finds himself in a situation that is like, whoops. And I think he's definitely not like, I don't want to belittle him. I think he's fine in the role, but he's definitely not got a strong presence, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know.
I think they're just kind of everyday people. He's just an everyman, sort of.
Yeah.
And he's completely overshadowed. Well, everyone's overshadowed by Ralph Richardson.
It's true. It's fun. So the wizard,
Ulrich,
he says he's not going to help. And it's interesting because another part of the village comes to disrupt this congregation, which is kind of like the
king's representative.
The king's knights representative.
The knight. What's his name?
He's the big guy.
Yeah. And what's actually really cool about this movie? It's, again, from 1981, you're talking about the golden age of entertainment where elaborate sets are built, right?
Yes.
Costumes and sets and practical effects. And when we're in Cragmore, the home of Ulrich the Wizard, what's so cool in the beginning, and it was kind of really cool because I'm like, this would never happen today. Okay. He does a little trick, a little piece of magic where all the candles turn off or go on. But when you look around, there's like 50 little candles lit around the room that are on fire in the set that go on and off at once. And which means that each one is piped with gas and they have all this stuff built. They build all this stuff for just a quick 2-second little piece. But the work that must have gone in to put all these little things together in this one little set piece must have taken forever to wire and get this in. But it's this is the extent of the work and detail that they used to put in the movies back then. Now, of course, it's all done instantly with, computer graphics, and that shot's taken care of in a day. But it's just interesting just to take a step back and look at all the little stuff that they're putting into even just one 3-second shot in the set that you'll never see again. I just thought it was pretty cool.
Well, the set, I mean, it's interesting that you bring up because the sets were designed specifically to be claustrophobic. If you notice in the shots inside the buildings, you can see the roof, in the shot. And it was specifically designed to give it that feeling like they didn't want to have like the big kingdom sort of thing. And I think it works really well. Because if you've ever been to if you ever go to one of those old frontier houses, you walk in there and you just can't believe an entire family lived in this is basically a 1-room apartment.
Right. Yeah. It's Tyrion, right?
Tyrion is the big guy.
So Tyrion questions the wizard in front of everybody. He says, look, I want to test. This is your guy. You come here to get this wizard to kill the dragon. I want to test. And of course, you get the assistant who's doing his best work for the master. He's like, we don't do tests. But what's so cool, speaking of practical effects, there's a great scene where he calls for Galen to throw down a dagger from the tower in the chest, which is obviously to get Galen up there and to lock him in, to keep him there from interfering, as we find out. But what's so cool is that when you watch this, Tyrion's hand is on a fence and he throws the dagger down. And in the shot where Tyrion's hand is, about 4 inches away from his hand, this knife dagger goes and embeds into the wood. So at some point it was launched from something, whether thrown or specifically launched, about 4 inches from this guy's hand. And if you watch, I don't know how many takes it took, but when you watch, the guy does look a little nervous because you got to see how close this knife comes to his hand in real life. So I like the realism of it.
That does to that scene is one of the great. I mean, I guess it's a little reminiscent of Obi-Wan, although that happened later. But first thing in the movie, Tyrion kills Ulrich.
Yeah,
and it's shocking because you're like, wait, what?
You're thinking there's a trick.
Yeah,
like, okay, well, he's just doing something, and then you're like,
great payoff, very smart, very smart.
But then the assistant, he knows what's going on. Hodge, that's his name.
Hodge,
that's the old man, right?
Yeah, he.
They do tests.
They burn Ulrich, and he collects the ashes. Which for a reason for this is interesting too. We can go to that later, but of why they did that. But so they had that cool pendant that
the amulet that Ulrich was wearing.
Galen is like, oh no, this sucks. Everything sucks. And then this thing keeps popping up everywhere. So then he gets his second win and he decides he's gonna go slay the dragon. So him and Hodges. Now I will say that part has one of the goofiest effect scene where he makes the backpack float around. That's clearly on a wire.
Yes.
So they beat the camp, and then Tyrion is fully establishing himself as the villain. And you know what I just realized is same thing with Galen. Is they're curly-headed guys. There's a lot of curly-headed guys in this movie.
Yeah, maybe it was a time period thing.
Like William Cat. I'm sorry, William Cat didn't show up.
Yes, William Cat with the blonde afro. That's
very.
Anyway, Tyrion, after Galen gets an eyeful of Valerian, what's her name?
Valerian.
Yeah, he gets to say the whole shebang.
Which, by the way, this movie was a partnership between Paramount and Disney. So, do you think that scene hurt the movie?
Well, yeah, it was heavily criticized because of that. People were like, whoa. Actually, me and Jared had a similar conversation regarding King Kong Lives about Linda Hamilton's nip slip in that.
Doesn't make sense. You could have done with. I mean, look.
You didn't. I
appreciate a good boob scene, but let's be honest. You don't need it.
No,
and it could have been. You could have cut that and still had the same effect with the discovery.
I don't think anybody was like, to your original point, like, whoa, that's a girl.
Yeah. So
if I hadn't seen that nipple, I wouldn't have believed it.
Just, I guess that's where a director says, I'm going to make this super real, and I don't care about the reviews or the critique I get. I'm going to make this my movie.
Well, they're all perverts. They probably didn't think it was.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but so, hey, I'll tell you this, by the way, seeing this as a kid on HBO a lot, I was very thankful.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Me and Jared talked about that. Like, they kind of like, they always try to well, it's no big deal. It's just a quick. And I'm like, man, when you're an adolescent young boy,
you're putting that on the chalkboard, man.
Yeah, that's like one of the most amazing things you've ever seen. That's like the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah.
Oh my. Holy cow.
Wait, what?
There was a nipple.
It goes on the board, man. Right. You're like,
calm down. Calm down.
Okay. Let's see.
But
yes. When does HBO run this again?
That's what happens. It's how and that's probably a really foreign concept to younger listeners and young viewers that they're like, well, whatever, because the internet's probably spoiled them on accessibility to that stuff. But as young lads in the golden age, That was there was no access to that, and what you had, you marked it.
No, and when you were given glimpses,
everything marked and membered.
Yes,
absolutely, seared into your brain.
Yeah, but so we find out that Valerian, go figure, is a woman.
Yes,
and
her voice changes, and she starts wearing makeup immediately thereafter.
No, it's not till after the dragon.
No, it's not after. Yeah, but it's funny that moment. But
Tyrion
Galen
kills Hodges.
Which you have like a little. Galen has like some kind of like vision in the water.
Yeah, he sees it in the water,
and he catches up with him, and he's been shot in the chest.
There's a kind of a cool, great reveal because you see Hodges walking along, and then they zoom out, and he's got that arrow stuck right in the middle of his
Let
chest.
me tell you, watch it again, and I'm sure you've seen it recently, but Galen is a douchebag. Like he is like so.
Well, at the beginning, he's a jerk.
He still is. Watch his face the whole time when this poor man is dying, who's basically been the only person aside from his master he's ever known. And he's grabbing his hair to pull him in close. He's all annoyed. He's trying to rip his head out, and he just looks so miserable at this man dying versus pitiful and sad. I'm just like, wow, man.
Well, I think
all of this guy
faces. Well, have we passed the first maiden getting chomped?
Yeah, I think we have.
Because I want to tell you something. The scene with the shackles.
Oh, she's trying to pull her hand.
I can't. I almost can't watch it.
As a kid, that always stuck with me. You're right.
I can't watch it. It's harrowing. Just oh my gosh, it is so brutal. I mean, it's just
that is
brutal.
Crazy. Why does it bother you so much?
Because the idea of someone trying to squeeze their hand, those are metal. There's no give. The only thing that's coming off when she's pulling her hand through there is flesh.
So, I mean, what we're talking about is we get a cutaway scene where the village that they're going to assist is doing one of their lottery sacrifices to the dragon Vermithrax Pejorative.
Well, we don't know it's a lottery at this point. All we see them is pulling up a.
Well, no, we already heard about a lottery. They've already talked about the lottery with the wizard, didn't they?
Did they? Okay. Well, all right.
Because the rich don't get put into it. Maybe we've heard about that later. But either way, we see this. We don't see the dragon, but
that's what we talk about. We see the tail, the claw,
but the noise it makes when it starts to inhale.
Oh yeah, that's great.
It's just unbelievable.
It's really great.
I might mention that I did watch this with my 6-year-old daughter today.
Yeah.
All of it.
Really?
Which is a mistake.
What?
I'll probably hear about this like at 3 a.m.
now. Did she watch it though?
Yeah.
Well, what was her reaction to some of this?
She loved every second of it.
Until she goes to bed.
And
she thinks about
this is
they're eating the foot.
The baby dragon eating the foot.
That's another scene that's awful to watch.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, that's a great scene where the maiden gets.
Yeah, because I think some audience members, perhaps back then, were trained to think, well, she's going to get away because she escapes the shackles.
You know what though? It's her performance. That girl is frantic. I mean, she is freaking.
Yeah, she sold it
out.
Yeah,
and I read the novelization.
Oh,
there it is.
Which is terrible.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's not good. Oh. And the writer's very full of himself. And this scene is way different in the book because the girl, she's very she's like, they do the whole scene where she's like kind of just, she's been selected and she's just sort of like okay with it, like, oh, whatever, it's gonna, and then when this scene, like one of the best scenes in the movie with this girl trying to desperately escape from the dragon, in the book she's just like kind of like, oh, okay, here comes the dragon.
Well, this girl sold it. So
yeah, that was a great scene. Now the horse got away, right?
Yeah, the horse did get away.
Thank goodness.
Smashed. Yeah, people. Who cares?
Is that the horse that appears at the end? I wonder. Same color.
It was a white horse, right?
Oh, with dark.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's an interesting connection there, Matt.
I have to see it. Go back and check.
Anyway, the horse thing made me think of that Brian Regan joke where he said he was driving behind a trailer and it said, "Caution, horses on board." And he goes, "Oh, okay, I'll remember that. If I lose control, I'll just swerve into regular old people." What? Sorry. The whole thing about, don't want the animal to die, but the people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
I thought it was funny.
Write
in if you thought that was funny too.
So
Mike, you are clearly the funniest of the three.
All right, so we've seen the young woman get destroyed, which in this scene we get our first glimpses. We don't get, they're not ready to reveal everything yet, but we do see, I believe, like a claw. We have the tail in this scene.
Yeah, the tail smashes the wagon.
Yes. Okay.
And then the great noise in the fire.
Yeah. So it's also a very effective tease for the dragon. And we put it together as an audience what has happened here.
Well, okay, so once Hodges dies, he gives the ashes to Galen.
Yes.
Then they go across the lake, and they're supposed to go to the village, but Galen's like, no, I want to see the lair. So they go to the lair.
Right. They come close to the lair.
And he casts the spell, causes an avalanche, and that's it. Movie's over. He's killed the dragon.
And that's Dragonslayer, everybody.
Yeah.
Or so they think.
And they make it to town. They have a great celebration, and she feels.
And that's when,
Valerian feels that this is an appropriate time to pull out the dress that she stored away.
Yes.
For this very moment.
She's holding it back because she wants to woo Peter MacNicol.
Yeah.
She started her first cycle. What?
And
she's a woman now.
So she's
ready
out.
for birthing.
She's very made up, and she comes out, and the whole village stops and cannot believe that they pulled the wool over their eyes this entire time. That yes,
yeah,
Valerian's actually a woman. Cannot believe it.
Now
makes that connection. Which, by the way,
is one of the most unrealistic moments of the movie, because I can't help but think that every father who's lost a daughter would suddenly just beat the hell out of her dad.
No kidding.
I think even one of them made a comment like, "Oh, I wish I'd been that smart." And he's like, the father's like, "Well, you can't blame me, for trying to keep my daughter."
Yeah, no, you're right though. You're right. But there's an awkward pause in the celebration until our hero Galen steps up and brings her into the fray and starts to dance, and then everyone's okay with her, and they dance.
But then Tyrion
shows up
with his shaggy afro.
Yes,
and that actor is familiar to me. He was good.
That
guy was good.
I looked him up because I thought surely I've seen him elsewhere.
That face he just looks like a bad guy.
He was in Flash Gordon.
That's right.
Yes, he was
Flash Gordon
without the beard, but the same hair. Okay. So he says, the king wants to see you. Now, here's another one of my favorite performances. The king is played by, hold on.
Oh, he's good. He's good.
Yes,
he is great. Peter Eyre.
Yeah.
He's a Shakespearean. Oh my God, he has such a look of. What's the right word? Like, he's so disengaged.
Yeah,
aloof.
Yeah, like he's a total weirdo.
And Galen is just trying to put on this pitiful.
Well, it's interesting the story that he tells.
Show.
But by the way, he brings the mountainside down. He floats eggs and can do stuff.
Oh yeah, this crappy magic show is so bad.
And it just, in fact, I don't think it was even really necessary, because I'm confused now by his character, and I'll tell you why. With the amulet, he's floating an egg on the trail. He's making the backpack dance, and he's making the guy's clothes pop off. But now he's all of a sudden having trouble moving a table. So it's inconsistent. I don't know. Maybe it's because Ulrich in the background is really the one doing all this and helping him. When
I don't know.
I don't know. But either way,
the king snatches off the amulet. He figures out.
Well, the king the king has a good point. The king says that my brother, who was an amazing king before me, well loved and great warrior, had led a contingent out to defeat the dragon, and he never came back. And from that moment on, the dragon went on a rampage and wreaked havoc on all of us. So we came up with this thing to do the lottery, and
they want the lottery. They're mad.
They want the lottery because you're right. The lottery the lottery keeps them safe. But what's interesting is he's saying now, and you on your own After that happened with the king, and we had this strife happen to us, you on your own went to take care of the dragon. I said, what do you think is going to happen now? Is what you're thinking, and which I think is actually a really good point. And then Peter MacNicol is like, oh, I don't know. Got no answer.
So he finds himself in the brig, in the dungeon.
What a crappy jail they made, by the way. What is that, like an old coal mine?
But what's interesting is the king, as aloof as he comes across, as like completely like robotic.
Mm-hmm.
You see him like frantically trying to turn lead into gold or something like that.
Right, that's what he was doing. Yes,
he is he is like freaking out trying to make this work. But so the princess comes down and speaks to Galen. Galen's like, oh well, I mean, your name was never even in the darn lottery, and she's like, oh no, that's not true. That's not true at all. But he's planted a seed of doubt,
which, by the way,
going to start it's like a pebble in a pond.
That is
a ripple.
That is a leap of faith, by the way, because that story was told to him at the campfire by Valerian, someone he just met from the village in the poor part of town where there is no access to the lottery. They know that their names get put in, but all they know is that the rich never have their names called. But that doesn't necessarily mean the names aren't in the lottery. That just means that you have the disgruntled. Stupid. You also have the disgruntled poor that are going to come up with excuses for everything. So there could have literally been their name in the lottery the whole time. They just, by luck of the draw, not have their names drawn. But now, to your point, Mike, the pebble has been thrown. He's passed that story on to the princess that, by the way, your name has never been put into a lottery because you're the king's daughter, which, to her credit,
yeah, she's an honorable person.
Takes and runs with it.
She goes to the king and says, hey, is it true? And at first he's dismissive. Like, no, that's not true. But he's so focused on making this gold, he can't keep lying. So he just kind of basically,
yes,
well, come on. I mean, you're the princess. Well, anyway, I got to turn this stuff into gold.
Yeah, but he saw that scene too, in that weirdness, in that weird conversation.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess at this point, the dragon escapes.
Yeah,
correct.
And boy, he is not happy.
Now,
so we got to
go ahead.
Well, go ahead. What are you going to say, Jay?
No, I was going to say the escape. Now, is the escape when we get a better look at him or her, the dragon?
No, because it really hasn't been an escape yet. It's just been an earthquake.
Yes,
and
but it's true. We see it flying around. I don't think we get any real good close-ups of it.
And they send right. And they send the holy man Palpatine, out to take care of the dragon.
He goes out on his own, I think, because he's mad at Galen for using magic to kill the dragon, so he wants to go prove.
And now that the gap is open again, where the landslide was, he has. By the way, it's a great scene. I mean, he really does deliver his lines very well, Ian McDermott.
Well, it's Palpatine.
Yeah, it's Ian McDermott.
Have you ever heard the tragedy of the holy man?
Vermithrax, pejorative, the dragon.
It's not a story you would have heard from the holy men.
That's great.
But man, when he gets zapped, that quick moment of him without any hair just engulfed in flames.
It's so weird looking.
You're like, oh my gosh.
But you get that big deep inhale again, and the camera booms up to, and you get like with the backside of the dragon's head with the horns and stuff.
Yes,
those little teases.
That's the shot of the practical head from the behind.
Now, just just for topic of conversation. So, do you think this is Galen's fault? Do you think he's to blame for this?
Somewhat.
I think by design, maybe not on his own cognizance. By design, he is at fault. Yes,
he causes the carnage, but he is trying to help them.
Yes, it's a good intention, but at the same time,
to your point, what you said, Matt, he was ignorant of the reality of the situation, and the king knew what was going to happen based on his wisdom.
Yes, the experience of what had happened before. And I also think that, as we find out maybe a little later, that these actions are maybe possibly a little guided too. So
Galen, he essentially pulled James T. Kirk and walked into the town and said, "Your civilization is a lie. And here is what I'm going to do." And so he, whereas Kirk successfully did this, Galen tried it. He basically bypassed the prime directive and went, he's like, I'm just going to go kill the dragon. It doesn't matter what these people do in their society.
Right.
And so he wasn't thinking about that when he did what he did.
Right. We then are, so the dragon's back. The dragon is confirmed. It's confirmed that the dragon's back. So now the kingdom has to have another lottery. They have to have a sacrifice. So we now see everyone who's gathered at the castle.
And this time, Valerian is going to be a part of it.
Right. Tyrion actually called her out and in her father's blacksmithing house. And she's like, no, I'm putting my name in. I'm putting my name in. How brave of her now to hide all these years to now take charge. But
she took off her outfit from Target and she went out in her woman clothes.
So she's part of the lottery. And we have the royal Chamberlain is now hosting the lottery. And
I want to say the whole lottery scene was very, very, very well done.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the big thing,
cauldron.
Yes, and they had the whole ritual, stir the pot, and I just thought that whole scene was just so. That's like why this movie works. Is like these scenes just feel real, and that just feels like a real moment that we're watching.
Mm-hmm. And they pen up all the virgins in one area, and it's interesting too because like in the audience, all the men, of course, are like, pull the tile, say the name, because they're not gonna get their name pulled.
Sure.
And you got like the older women who are obviously mothers and not qualified. They're like, pull the name. They have no sympathy, but they pull the name. And the name,
the guy won't say it.
He's very hesitant. He won't say the name. Which is
and the
great.
king in his arrogance, he's like, "What are you waiting for?
Say the name." And of course, the name is of the princess. What's her name?
She's a very pretty girl too.
No, that can't be correct.
You know who that is, by the way? You know who that actress is?
Who?
Alec Guinness's niece.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Obi-Wan's niece.
Obi-Wan's niece is the princess.
Did she?
Wow.
Did he badmouth Star Wars to her?
Probably so. So it's her name, and
Princess Elspeth.
Elspeth. I will say this: I think the names in this movie, they don't, where like Lord of the Rings, the names like really roll off your tongue. I don't feel like these names really do that. They're kind of like
put an anus on it,
and it instantly becomes magical.
Broncanus,
Inus. Onus or anus, and it instantly becomes magical.
We can add Onius, Inus, or anus to just about anything, and it becomes magical.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. The names are a little tough, and they're tough to remember.
Especially the dragon's name. I mean, even having
Vermithrax
pejorative.
Why does it need a last name? Is it whatever?
But you're right. But the princess steps up, and of course the king's like, no, this can't be right. They can't read the name. We have to pull another one. And of course, all the tiles have been replaced, and they're all the princess. And she admits it, and she owns it. And she actually, it's a great scene because she in essence shames Valerian in the crowd, who is awestruck by this gesture because Valerian has ducked it her whole life, and this girl, who when learning that she ducked it, made sure that she was picked. And
oh yeah, that's a good point.
And it really puts a little like survivor guilt in Valerian there. But it's a great scene, and she has a lot of integrity, and you feel for her, and she owns it, and she's picked. And now we have a dilemma. Okay, now we have a dilemma. Now the king is all of a sudden, he needs some help.
Oh, that's right. And now where's he gonna go for help?
He's going to go right back to the little annoying curly-haired Blue Lagoon boy.
Blue Lagoon boy.
And
so he gives him back the amulet.
And says, I need your help. And by great coincidence, Valerian's father, who's a blacksmith, had a secret weapon stashed this entire time.
He had made a Dragonslayer.
Which, by the way, what I liked it. I always did like that weapon.
I was about to say the same thing. There is something about the design of that thing when he pulls it out of the waterfall. You're like, oh yeah, that'll kill a dragon. I mean,
it's a good scene. It's a good scene.
It's like I don't know why. It's an unusual kind. It's kind of like a giant like arrowhead, like a modern one, like you see Rambo use.
I don't know, which maybe a black arrow shot out of a bow
there's just
to kill Smaug the dragon.
Another part of this movie that you see and you just instantly believe it. Like it just looks dangerous.
The director of the movie still has that spear to this day. He kept it.
I have something to say about that spear, but not just yet. But the spear is it's up there in my youth as one of my top favorite weapons. It was it just looked cool, and it just looked, to Mike's point, like, yeah, I believe it. That would work. That would work. And it almost does, by the way.
And I tell you, there's another great part too that and it shows how smart Valerian is she goes and makes him a shield out of scales.
Love that part.
And that's it.
Yes,
yeah, and even as a kid, when she's like, here, I made this shield, and you're like, in your head, you're like, well, yep, that makes perfect sense. I mean, what else is going to...
Was that in the comic also?
It was. I don't know if it's sold as well as it does in the movie.
Yeah, it's really smart and really, like, it's right there. It's on the nose, and it makes perfect sense.
So he's like, when he goes to that cave, you feel like he's ready. He's ready to do this.
And we've discovered something. By the way, the princess gets chained up into the sacrificial post, and Galen comes to rescue her, and Tyrion is there to make sure that this deed goes through. So Tyrion is there, ready to play interference in case anybody tries to stop the sacrifice. So they have a little duel.
But there's a little bit of frustration because he frees the princess and she runs into the cave.
Right. Which is awesome.
And you're like, scene. He's like, what are you doing?
I mean,
but there's that cool scene where he stabs him through that post. That just shows, and that works because it just shows you how sharp.
And earlier when they were like reforging the blade, how he's taking like a horseshoe and he's shaving it on the blade to show how sharp it is.
It's like clay. It's coming off like clay.
It's very cool. But yeah, it goes right through that post and kills Tyrion.
And there's the end of Tyrion.
But we found out right before this, when Valerian was gathering scales to make the shield, she discovers that Vermithrax pejorative is not alone in the cave.
Got babies.
And
they're ugly little babies.
Maybe she was storing them in the dragon sperm bank in there. I don't know.
Maybe they're asexual. I don't know.
Well,
I think one of the challenges
frog DNA.
One of the challenges they said they had was when they originally designed those things, they were all cute looking.
I read that too. Yeah.
And the director's like, no, we can't. No, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
For what these things do, that's not.
And they were. I remember as a kid when I remember really like early on watching that, like that scene disturbed me. Like those things were.
They're eating her.
We're freaky.
Oh my gosh, eating the foot off of her body.
I mean, how you have to admit, watching it now. That's why I say the movie kind of holds up really well. The gore factor in this movie was
awful.
Was really legit awful.
And because the woman is not a villain by any means. She does not deserve this. She's honorable. She's brave.
Yeah.
And she's
dinner
there. Yes. And when that one is like on her, got its claw against her, I guess it was her chest.
It was her face.
Uh-huh.
But
my god!
But when she's chewing the foot's already off, and it's not like it's under like the dress. It's like a raw leg.
Yeah, it's
missing a foot
graphic.
with a bone sticking out.
And it looks real.
Looks very
real.
Like to their credit, it looks like the practical effects in this movie are outrageously good. Outrageously.
I don't think the baby dragons quite overcome the puppet curse though.
A little bit.
No, but I think they
look cool.
Actions are so horrifying that you kind of bypass that a little bit.
I'll tell you this. You're right to an extent, but we'll get to it. Remind me to come back and I'll tell you why I think it worked for those. But anyways, So he kills the babies. which is a great scene. Thank God he killed those babies. They were gross and they needed to die. But I love how the transverse through the cavern as he goes deeper and deeper. You're right, Mike. It just closes in on you.
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic. That set is amazing. But
that's just it. It's a real set. And that's why, and we'll make this argument, and it'd be interesting to get somebody on the podcast who's much younger. I want to hear perspectives of movies that they grew up with, that they love. But like, we watch these movies, and the reason why I think we got so attached to movies like this is because the sets were real and they're in a real place, and you're seeing this person in a real place to you. And like, it didn't take a lot of imagination to put yourself there and really go along with the story, because it much like Lord of the Rings to an extent, they gave you some real locations to really bite into and really seal the realism for me. But anyways, he goes down
that giant that when he finally encounters Vermithrax Taurus, that giant head, which is funny, is there was a giant head and there was a puppet head. And now this movie is a great example of just using the different techniques they had at that time and combining them together.
Yeah.
But that giant dragon head looks absolutely convincing. They said, and I'm not like a dragon historian, but they said that model really is what, from that point on, is what dragons were kind of modeled after from that point.
George R.R. Martin claims that's his favorite dragon of all time.
Well, Guillermo del Toro loves this movie. Yep. In fact, he does the commentary with the director on the disc. It's a great commentary.
One of the dragons in the Game of Thrones series, in the old dragons, when the Game of Thrones series, we pick up what dragons are already basically gone, but one of the old dragons is named Vermithrax.
Okay.
In honor of this dragon. But like, you're right, this dragon became and still is to many the benchmark. The bar has been set, and this dragon's at the top of that bar. So, and it's amazing to think, because we're talking about 1981. You're talking about over 40 years ago. People still look back on this particular dragon, how it was put together, the go motion, how it acted, how it was moved, and it's the gold standard of dragons today.
It holds up.
Yeah, and it does hold up. Watching it today, it holds up. And there's a scene. But you're right. We're in a big lake of fire. And which, by the way, he's not cluing in right away, because the last thing that Hodges said to him is like, water, burning water. And he's in burning water, and he's not putting it together, but whatever. I get it. Stress of the situation. There's a lot going on. And we get our first reveal, full reveal of the dragon, which is great.
And we have a cool little battle between him and the dragon.
By the way, the shield, although a great idea, let's be honest. Is there any way he's not getting fried behind that shield?
True.
But it's still great.
It's still a cool scene.
That shield saved him 3 times in that sequence. And it's pretty cool.
Then something unexpected happens. He loses. He does not kill the dragon. He is not successful.
And this is what I was there's a great, real quick before we move too far. There's a great moment where you almost feel sorry for the dragon when it finds its babies. When it nudges that dragon, it moves like a real animal, like the body, the motion. You could see it, like that, whatever that puppet version was really well done. It moved like a dead animal. That's how it would move. Which, by the way,
Matt knows.
The anger the dragon gets.
Yes.
And that scene where you see the cavern, which is like foggy, and you hear the stomping. And all of a sudden the dragon emerges, coming in on its legs and wings, hauling in and emerging through the fog, all angry, looking for this guy. Is a great, great scene where you're like, holy, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And of course, up above, Blue Lagoon jumps on its neck with its spear.
Lagoon.
And actually does a lot of good damage. He actually had some pretty good hits.
He got in some good shots.
He survives.
Yeah.
Now, what happened to the spear? Okay, what happened? Tell me what happened.
It breaks.
Of course, it breaks. You know why? Because there's it's a wooden shaft.
Well, yeah, but still,
it's a wooden shaft. The guy has the most amazing blade on the end, but he makes a wooden broomstick to put it on. Of course, it breaks. Anyways,
well, I think it's one of those one-shot things. You plummet it as deep in as you can, and then you hope is the kill
hope for
shot.
the best.
I still don't know, and I remember thinking this is when I was younger, and I watched it today, and I thought the same thing again. When Valerian finds him passed out outside of the mountain, I'm not sure what's going on there, because it's almost like it's like a stubborn kid who doesn't want to open his eyes. Then finally, like, still alive, like. He's because it doesn't look like he's like coming to or anything like that. Like,
well, maybe he's just sitting there and he's just so disappointed in himself.
Still alive,
and he has to say it out loud. That makes it all the more real.
But the dragon is still alive, and it's pissed off. Its babies are dead. Now, we learn an interesting thing about Vermithrax pejorative, the dragon, is that this dragon is very old. And we learned this early on from Ulrich, looking at scales and the tooth that they brought.
There's also a rumor that the wizards were responsible for creating the dragons.
Yeah, I think they're tied together, which makes sense that they go out together. But the dragon is very old, and that's part of what the king was trying to do, was wait out this dragon. They knew the dragon was old, and he's trying to wait it out and have it die on its own. And he was going to do the lottery only as long as until the dragon died. But now the dragon has no reason to not destroy everything. The babies are dead. It's old. It's just full of rage and anger and pain, and it's about to unleash hell on everybody.
And so, what does Galen do? Time to go.
Let's get out of here.
So him and Valerian were like, "See ya." And then he has a revelation that I guess I don't know I can't remember what triggers
his thing starts glowing again.
Yes.
And
he's like, "Oh,
his amulet glows." And he's like, "Yes, burning fire, burning water." I think I was just there. But
so he throws and this is, back, we talked about this before. This is one thing I really liked, is the whole point that Ulrich let himself be killed was because he wouldn't have been able to make the journey.
Very smart.
So, I mean, that's something any normal person would consider is, well, I'll just have myself killed. I'll have my ashes taken there and then just throw it in the lake of fire and I'll
reconstitute.
Yeah. Super smart. It's very smart. It's very smart.
So
and it holds up today as like smart. You're like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what it does do, though, and this might be part of and maybe this is why Peter MacNicol works, is he's not necessarily the hero of the story. He's just a vehicle.
Right.
So, but his character does have some growth, so that's fine.
So he goes to the fire lake. Somehow he gets back in there without disturbing a dragon. And he throws the ashes in, and we get some great visual. Now, this is where I want to talk about 4K, guys. So I watched this on a 720 print today, which is kind of like how I've probably always viewed it. And, so to me, it always looked like I've always viewed it. But like the fire in the water when the wizard is coming back, when Ulrich's coming back, I hear on 4K looks spectacular.
Oh, the movie looks fantastic in 4K.
Like the colors, like the bright green flames look bright green instead of like just like half yellow, half green. Is that true? Like all the colors are great, and
it looks good. There's a lot of grain evident in the 4K just because
that's old.
And a lot of these shots, of course, the effect shots, some of them they're photographed over and over again. So, but it doesn't really diminish. It looks like you're watching a movie, and it doesn't look like a crystal clear, something that was shot on digital these days.
I think that probably helps the movie. Probably,
yeah, it does. I mean, it gives it a nice sheen.
I will say what's coming up is where the movie gets dated. So Ulrich comes back. He's like, "Okay, listen.
Do you have any food?"
I hate that. He's like, "Bud." Blue Lagoon just in his voice just irritates me.
I thought it was funny that he's hungry after being dead.
like that, actually.
Yeah, it's like a little human moment there.
Bud,
you didn't bring along anything to eat by any chance?
Food?
So he says, I'm going to do something, and at the right moment, I want you to destroy the amulet.
Right.
The scene is interesting. I think you definitely see a lot of blue screen stuff going on, and it kind of takes you a little bit out of it because there's so much of the movie is shot on location and all these great sets, and then all of a sudden you're going to these blue screen shots. So unfortunately, that part doesn't really hold up that well. But there's a lot of tension in the scene, and it's always one of those great scenes too, where somebody's told to do something, but the person it doesn't seem right to the person, so they almost do the wrong thing. So when the dragon picks Ulrich up, and no, it's before the dragon picks Ulrich is standing on the
he kind of teleports to the top
mountain
of the mountain,
top,
right?
yeah, and
he tells his apprentice, look, destroy the amulet while there's still life in my body. And it's important to know that.
And so Valerian starts freaking out and is trying to get him to destroy the stone or the amulet then. And for once, Galen's listening to Ulrich, and he's like, no, this isn't the time. So you have this moment where she's trying to smash it, and he's trying to keep her from smashing it. And then the dragon is basically tearing up Ulrich.
Yeah. Which, by the way, before the final grab, the way that the dragon flies in the air and
that's Ken Ralston,
its tail as a rudder and to brake with, it's really impressive. I mean, if you watch this movie for the first time after listening to this podcast, just remember the dragon flying at the end of the movie. Watch how the wings move as flaps, the tail moves to help it move in the air. It's like incredibly thought out and very smart. And I'm sure if you watched it now, if you were like an aerospace engineer, you'd be like, that's smart.
That makes sense.
Well, they always base that stuff off real animals.
Yeah.
But so the dragon grabs a hold of Ulrich and they destroy the amulet, and boom, Ulrich and the dragon explode.
Which, by the way, so when Ulrich is grabbed and Galen has grabbed the rock from Valerian and he's about to smash it, and then it lights up again, and he's like, is it a My Precious moment where he's like,
well, you got to think this thing is a source of power, and it does seem counterintuitive to destroy
it.
He's like, and then he destroys it and he blows it up like a.
Now, I want to say that dragon corpse looks pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah, I thought so too. I'm like, that's a lot of detail put into that.
I mean, I remember seeing that as a kid. I mean, that was
that's a real animal?
Yeah, where'd they find a dragon to do that? Is there like a dragon butcher shop and they just got one and threw it out on the ground?
Yeah, detail was amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
That looked great. But it does. It ends, and our heroes are not necessarily. They're not triumphant.
No,
they're not celebrated. They're not celebrated.
Well, yeah, because they really. It's sort of like the dragon was destroyed in spite of Galen.
Yes.
Because he pulled some boners. And well, that's the expression.
What pull boners?
Yeah, pull a boner. Come on, son. I pulled some boners.
What does that mean?
Man,
what kind of 1950s talk are you?
Well, I'm sorry, but that's
pulling boners means something else to me.
No, it doesn't.
You're sitting there tugging on
it.
Hey,
Johnny, you want to come over here and pull some boners with me?
I'm going to look it up.
No. Listen, that's going to be a bad Google search.
Do not Google pulling boners.
Don't you remember on Growing Pains there was a character named Boner?
Yes, I remember.
I don't remember them pulling a boner anywhere.
This is from Google. Pull a boner, make a blunder, as in I pulled an awful boner when I mentioned his ex-wife. From the expression derived from the noun.
That movie.
This expression is derived from the noun bonehead.
Oh, wow.
Right. That phrase is probably as old as the movie, and I don't know if that phrase holds up, but you're right. He doesn't.
I'm sorry if you're intimidated by my command of the English language,
or you're command of, late 50s terminology.
So you're right. They don't get celebrated. The king comes in with his wagon, and he nervously and
yes,
politically
puts his sword in
this corpse,
this obliterated dragon corpse.
And his crier is he's like, "All hail! He who fell from the sky, Dragonslayer!" And they mark him as the Dragonslayer king.
I think this ending may have hurt the movie because we don't have
a triumph.
We don't have Han and Chewie and Luke walking down the. We don't have them getting the medal. We don't have the Nazis' faces.
It is kind of like a whimper.
No, I have to say, going like, "You are great."
I do have to say, next time I watch it, I'm going to be trying to figure out if that's the same horse from the beginning.
It just came to me. I bet you it is, because the horse got away.
It makes sense.
And the horse,
because his question is like, "Did you make that horse appear?"
And then again, it's like an Inception ending. Is it like is the dreidel still still spinning, or is it fake or real? Does he have magic or does he not?
Well,
but anyway, so
the way I just want to say, the way I translate it is he didn't have magic anymore.
I agree. I think he doesn't. I think that horse is what we saw in the beginning, and it's just a coincidence. And you're supposed to be like, I don't know. And narrated him right off bareback, mind you, through some incredibly harsh terrain. Good luck on that.
Yeah.
And
I want to say this scene did showcase one of my least favorite aspects of this movie, and that was the score.
Oh, you know what? It's funny that you say that. So Alex North scored this, and you can tell. I read a little trivia on this. I'm sure you did as well. That some of the unused score from 2001 was used, and you can tell in this movie when you watch it, knowing that fact, where that score pops in and where it doesn't. You can see what was deliberately scored for this movie and what was then
was borrowed.
His score was rejected from Kubrick. He did the score for 2001.
Yes.
Kubrick rejected it, and apparently it really hurt his feelings.
Yeah.
So,
although I don't think you can argue that Kubrick made the wrong decision.
Oh no! In fact, this score is not.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. It's one of the weaker 1980s scores, especially from a fantasy movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, and it's not congruent because, like I said, you can really tell what was purposely scored for this movie and what was shoehorned in from what he had completely.
And Alex North, he was an old school. He was from the golden age of Hollywood.
Yeah.
He was definitely he was winding down at this time.
Right.
Yeah, Leonard Rosenman.
But all in all, this was one of those movies that was always on as a kid, and this is something that you would catch on a weekend religiously, and it just kind of went down with like Beastmaster and Dragonslayer, and
yes,
there was like a constant rotation of these fantasy movies. Red Sonja that popped in all the time.
Yeah,
Conan. It's like, except for Mike's never seen Conan somehow. Like how Deke's never seen Dragonslayer. But to a lot of us growing up back then, these movies were like kind of like your weekend movies that you saw all the time. And it made it kind of memorable because there was a booby scene. And that was a big deal for a boy growing up. And these kind of movies got marked.
Huge deal.
But all in all, it's one of those fantasy movies that really like Krull, even for me. Like it or hate it. Like it or hate it. It just was always on.
I think for this movie, especially rewatching it this last time, I feel like it fits comfortably in the Tolkien world, if that makes sense. Whereas opposed to a movie like Willow, which is fun to watch, but I just feel like Dragonslayer kind of still stands out.
I agree. And watching it now, I felt my 6-year-old daughter watched it. For better for worse, and she actually really loved it. She thought it was great, and
that's awesome.
And it's like a watchable movie, and you know why? Because it's, to Mike's point, it's smarter than you think the movie's going to be. It's impressive the way that it's put together. It's visually stunning, even to this day. Some of the acting is questionable, but then again, some of the acting is amazing in it. So it's like you get a good mix of everything, and it's just a good, solid movie.
Yeah, and that's why they're releasing, 40th anniversary 4Ks of it. It's deserving of its. I'm glad it found its audience. after its theatrical run. It didn't just fade away. It found its audience on television.
Yeah,
and
a lot
VHS.
of people were inspired by this movie.
Yeah. And
it's one of those movies, hey, the cool kids have seen it.
Yeah, they know all about it.
Yeah, you seen Dragonslayer? Okay, we can be friends.
Okay, Dragonslayer. Well, I think that was a fantastic conversation on Dragonslayer, a movie that we all enjoy. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation. And we want you to continue to enjoy our conversations here on The Hyperspace. We still have plans for season 7. We're gonna be showing some love to a couple of movies over on The Good, Bad, and Ugly that you're going to want to know about. How about a little Star Trek V, The Final Frontier? And we're going to try to convince Matt he's wrong about Bubba Hotep, and it is, in fact, a piece of crap.
Not a chance.
I have to rewatch it. I've only seen it once, so I can't judge it.
Okay. Well, we're going to invite our good buddy Deke on for that one, too. So
it's actually his idea.
Okay, great. Well, please tell your friends about the show. So, tell them to subscribe, share the show where you like to. We're just getting warmed up here in the 25th century, and we want you to continue to come along with us. So we're going to call it good night. And Matt, do you have any food?
Food?
That's the worst.
Just keep those shackles soft.
All right, Blue Lagoon.
Oh, yeah. Put the shackles on Mike and watch him peel his skin off.
Ugh.
Oh, yeah. And
I don't know how you can watch that. Ugh.
I watch it in slow motion. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Food?
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.